And welcome. I'm Dan Lutz to the front lines, and I'm here with
Tank.
And we're here in the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illumindonkeys, and all those that wish to enslave us. We're here on the front lines. Now, so how was that intro? That was a little different.
And you had it down. I think you're slipping a little bit, man.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, so, I'm trying to. I got three things that was happening at the same time, so it's kind of like okay. So it threw me off a little bit. But anyway, so how's it going, Tank?
Well, everything is pretty exciting right now, and I'm having a blast. And today we got some updates, reasonable updates. Kind of. Last night we knew that Federal Reserve and Chase Bank are working with us 100% and working through any glitches. And there was some glitches today, this morning. And about 2 hours later, Kim let me know that those had cleared up. And so to the best of what I'm gathering is that basically Kim is, kind of sectioned off with about 200 different categories, accounts, organizations, that will, are going to be designated for different things. I'm sure that includes things like, fresh water to construction to, all the different aspects and elements of projects. And then, I guess, groups like Create Change and, People's Club, and I don't know anybody else right now, will basically be facilitating the funds, right? So for the project. So, if we had a project and we designate phase one as construction, well, then those accounts, I guess we draw the money down from the construction account and for that project. Right? And that's kind of how that works. And then phase two is, whatever. You're going to build some kind of water purification system. So there's a category for water, and we'll pull the money down from that account. And basically, then it's designated automatically. Then it fits the quotas and regulations for jobs and such. Are dictated by the trust, and we should be able to in that process. So that stuff, and I could have that totally wrong. Kim did, she's explained those things in totally separate occasions, and I'm linking them together. So that might not be exactly accurate, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty close. So we know that's going on, and she also let me know that she had put some kind of chink in the armor of the dark side, and something she did yesterday, but she did not tell me what it is. So I'm just going to throw that out there for everybody. So I always think that's exciting because Kim is a master strategist, really, and she does know how to put things in place, set traps. So whatever they do, it's just going to blow up in their face. So
well, it seems like that Trump is doing a lot of the same things. This impeachment is continually to fall apart. Now X-22 report actually showed the actual whistleblower picture of him. It shows the interaction between Schiff and him from the past. Shows also that this guy also has been working with Biden on his campaign. It's you can't make up this stuff, right? It's
right.
How ridiculous, And of course, then we also found out that the oil company paid for the Schiff's people to fly to the Ukraine.
That seems kind of like a conflict.
Yeah. All the way around they're so incestuous and the thing is that they've probably always operated this way. Right? They've been doing this, and so they're not doing anything unusual. They're just not used to having the spotlight on them.
Well, that's what they're mad about, is that they're getting caught, right? Mm-hmm. It's like they're not mad because of the injustice of the unethical behavior of Donald Trump. They're mad because he's going so far outside of the controlled behavior that they're used to from the presidents, right? Who wouldn't even have batted an eyelash at this, and the Department of Justice, everybody else would have turned a blind eye as they committed all types of treason, right? Because it wasn't about the people; it was about whatever they felt like doing. They had the authority to do.
Right.
So,
right. So, but now it's completely being exposed, and they have no they have no they have no understanding of even where they're at, right? You know, they're it's so far outside of their reality. So their reality, you've heard about the Washington D.C. bubble, right? Right. Whenever you're there, you're in this bubble. Outside the bubble makes no difference, right? Everyone out in the country, you know, you have to go out and you have to campaign and you have to do those things, but that's kind of like a vacation. You know, you just got to something you go do, and you come back to work, and then they're doing the same old stuff that they're used to doing. So, well, yeah, we're constructing reality in their mind. They're constructing reality. They're presenting narratives. They're presenting the show, right? They keep putting up the show. You've got Channel Pelosi, and you got Channel Schumer, and you've got Channel Shift. Yeah, these are just and they're just have their own channel, right, and their own brand, and people are just going out and tuning into those brands. So I mean, there's some brands that I like. I mean, I like brand Rush. I like brand, Glenn Beck. You know, I like brand Sean Hannity. I like brand Reagan. I like brand Trump. Right? And so we tune into these, but you know, we're not getting 100% of what's going on. We get the show. You know, whatever they're presenting. But they've lost control of the narrative. You know, in the linguistics of the reality that in which we live, we have to know about the narrative. It's the optics. What are we shown? What is the words that are coming across the screen? And whoever controls that is then controlling the minds of everybody. Right? So it's the information flow. So this is what we're experiencing.
Well, and what's really fascinating is, you know, it's a magic show, right? So as much as they are talking, you can pretty much count on that they're lying, and therefore what you need to pay attention, what we all need to pay attention to more is what they're not talking about, right? Which I think brings up what's going on with United Nations, military vehicles being brought in force, right?
Right.
In the U.S. So what do you
2 mile
talk
long?
about that, man?
Yeah, 2 mile long trains with like 6 locomotives that are pushing all this heavy equipment, military equipment, tanks, Humvees, and equipment that they're pushing out on trains that are heading from the west to the east, with sightings of blue helmet troops in 18 states. So this is since Thursday. Right? So this is just now. And then you have what happens in California. You have Governor Newsom is there taking his the state and getting it prepared to secede from the union by they're having a staging area in an area that's just south of Silicon Valley that is kind of a choke point for San Francisco between the north and the south. San Francisco is north of this area, but there's an area you control this one spot. You basically control all of the center of California from this one area, this one choke point. And then you've got in the area, all of the surrounding area there, 2 million people out of power. It wasn't like a fire. They're claiming a fire, they're claiming wind is the reason why the power is off. But they turned it off. It wasn't because transformers blew or a fire, melted some lines. No, they turned off the power. They turned it off even into San Francisco. But then the people in San Francisco, the elite, were complaining, and that got turned back on. But not the rest of the area. But if you're moving troops around, and if there's power in the area, then people will be able to get on their phones and say, hey, there's troops in the streets. Now, I don't know if there are troops in the streets in this area, but the staging area is just south. And this is, there's other signs, like the governor had them take down the repeater towers for shortwave radio. Now, why in the reason would this be a high priority for anyone at this time, right? Unless you were trying to silence the people that had shortwave radios, ham radio operators, in other words, which are always the backbone of communications whenever there's something going on. So, and when you used to have civil defense during like World War II and things like that, you'd have to have a ham radio operator as part of your area. But they're removing the repeaters, which means limits your range. So why would this be such a high priority? And on top of all that, does Trump come in yesterday and take back over the port of Long Beach, the second largest port on the West Coast, which is literally...
Why do you say that way? They took back control. I mean, wasn't the U.S. always in control of it?
No, under Obama, it was given to China.
That's very interesting. Okay.
And they have, even when I was in Los Angeles, I lived there for many, many years. We're in Santa Monica. But the whole area, like Long Beach, is like Los Angeles is a lot of area that you'd call Los Angeles, the greater Los Angeles, but it really comprises a lot of cities, including Long Beach, which has this large port. From 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we were hearing that the Chinese were bringing in people in containers through the port. Now, this is the rumors that are going on. Then Obama turns around and then sells the port to the Chinese. Well, why did that happen? Well, because then they're in charge of inspecting everything that's coming through. And so if you're going to hide people or troops being brought in, what better way is to own the port? So
now I can confirm that actually, because I had some special ops guys up there who were actually informing people that there was going to be an outbreak of disease, and they were letting them know, like certain people that traveled back and forth from China, who like more special, so like they're identified as like special talent, right? So like there was an engineer for like trains and stuff. So he was given a sticker for his car so he could go back and forth from his home, because they were about to quarantine the whole area and put people in the stadiums. And there was going to be an outbreak. And the guy was like, well, how is a sticker going to keep me healthy if there's an outbreak?
Right.
It's like, what? And how do you know ahead of time there's going to be an outbreak? And you're going to have to quarantine people in the stadiums? What are you talking about? That's called genocide. Just,
Right. And this is the actions that are taking place. But as you can see, what else happened? And we're all talking. This is from October 2nd, right? We're talking about a period of 10 days when we've had the guys at Chase. We missed the show and see what happens. So
one show.
We missed the show.
Crazy.
So Chase guys get arrested and they're holding up the transactions. Okay, great. They're removed. Kim is then working directly with Chase and the Fed to move monies, and they're batching them out. And the impeachment, the faux impeachment that's been going on, is now falling apart. And so they're getting desperate. The cabal is getting desperate, and they're going to make a move to have California secede from the Union. to become a Chinese-owned entity, right? They'll make a deal. The governor will make a deal with the Chinese, right? But you now have Trump. What did he do? He called up the Marines, right? Never been done before for them to go into the cities, right? This is what the order says, right? To assist local authorities. Well, where's the local authorities? The cities. So, and who are going to be the authorities there, right? So if there is a coup attempt that's going to be made on Trump, and the cities are being put are now siding with the Chinese, right? And they're going to need some kind of natural disaster or some sort of thing that's going to go on that's going to make things say that, hey, we need UN troops in here, and all of a sudden, oh wow, a lot of blue helmets everywhere, right? And they're all happen to be speaking Chinese.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, and just a little side note to all this, they like to prepare, the society, right, the population, by using movies. So there used to be, when I was growing up in the 80s, a movie called Red Dawn, where you wake up one morning and the Russians were everywhere. They had taken over. Well, they have a new series that they put together about that, or maybe it's a new movie. I just caught a bit of it. This is a couple months ago, and it was Red Dawn, but it was the Chinese instead. And the people were and the kids were fighting back. I think it must have been a movie, but it. They're just preparing the people in their space, their mental space, to create that reality. If people are thinking about it, if they see it, it's more real to them if they saw it in a movie. Then when it starts happening around them, I saw that in a movie, right? Well, that just makes it more real. So they're preparing the population to accept, the breakup of the United States, right? This was part of their plan to break into 5 regions, and it would be like a king over each territory, right? And
it also has, it's what not many people talk about, but there's the shifting of the tectonic plates, right? This is actually, it's not a prophecy, it's based on good science, actually, of the shifting of the poles. The tectonic plates would shift, right, because they're not stabilized yet, and all of your coastlines would change. And so I know for a fact that the military has actually trained on what would happen if you had this kind of a split, right? And they're anticipating this, and this is what they're doing. That's why things would be broken up into 5 regions, because it would be more logical.
Right.
Right?
Well,
this was something that it was just a matter of fact, by the way. Like, has been known for a long time. Now, that will change because this actual alloy that Kim is putting in place will actually stabilize the plates. So that's not going to happen anymore. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I mean, we're. I was saying that this splitting up also in regard to like the geographic area being flooded out and California becoming an island, that kind of thing. It also includes like a volcano off of the coast of Washington State. The Mississippi, waters rising from there. There's a map that the Navy had that whenever you have Navy officers retire, they all go up into the mountain areas, right? That's of course where Navy people always love to go, right? Not down to the beach, but they love to live in the mountain areas. so they because they expect the new shoreline to be up there. I saw a guy that did a video about this. He was reporting he actually traced insurance company records, right, and where the naval people were actually retiring to happened to be all up in this 3 mile above sea level area. So, and plus they natural water, food, and everything in the area, right? So it's self-sustaining, that kind of thing. So,
right.
But all in all, though, we have Trump, moving his chess pieces, so he, takes over the harbor. Well, that kind of shuts down things. What else do he do? He builds a wall. Well, that kind of stops an invasion from the south, right? So
sure does. Sure does.
Yeah. So he's been preparing for this since before he was in office.
Yeah, he knew.
And maybe we go back to the Tesla plan. Go all the way back to that.
Tesla.
Yeah, but that's just my theory. It's Tesla that basically defeating the cabal back in his day.
It's got some legs to it, by the way. I definitely give it a lot of credibility, if nothing else, for it just thinking a different way. I think it's amazing.
Well, if even if the Witz group, the Witz Ministries, and talking with them, Sir Timothy, he said, nah, that there was no plan like that. And then he came back to me several days. We spoke to our oldest member. It's in his 90s. And I said, yes, this is true. So, hey.
Wow, that's so amazing. That's so amazing, man. Yeah. Amazing.
So actually, we should probably bring Sir Timothy on and talk about this again.
Yeah, it's a fun conversation. It's really cool.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Trump has been always one step ahead of them on all of this. That's why I when he's doing things, I said, oh, there's another trap. They're gonna just step in it. Watch. Yep, they did. They stepped in it. Oh, here's another trap. Just the way he worked. When he said, it's a perfect call. He said, it's a perfect call. It's a perfect call. Right? I mean, perfect meant more than just nicely worded.
Well, yeah, right.
It's a perfect trap. It's a perfect trap. It's a trap for them to step in and have everything that they were trying to basically put on top of him, all just land right off their feet. Not just land on their feet, land on top of their head and squash them, like a 10-ton anvil that falls from the sky in a Roadrunner cartoon. Squash.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating. I was having a conversation with them today, and I was walking through the steps and saying, okay, what's the logic, of the cabal right now? What are they looking at? Or better yet, what were the planners looking at, right? Because the cabal that's currently here, right? The Illuminati and all the organized structure that once existed is really gone, because there's always a hierarchy. So, but you can see the process pretty clearly, right? When you look at places like Haiti and, and what the lower levels were allowed to know. So you think about it, it's like you have to put things in place and basically commit massive acts of genocide, right? You have to, just so those who know who they are eliminated, right? Then you have a generation that you can tell them whatever you want.
Yeah.
So you have to find ways to poison everyone.
Right.
Slowly, right? Where it just becomes normal that we all accept.
Right.
There's disease and there's all types of things, and we have to be on guard all the time. So you create a culture that is very, jumpy all the time, right? Because you never know who you can trust. And so then you add to that. Okay, now you can't have those who are going to figure this out, right? Because you got Teslas out there, and Dan Lutz's are going to figure stuff out. So what you do is you make sure that you dumb everybody down with lots of poison in the water. You put metal, soft metals in the air and nanites that'll respond to frequencies where you can control what people are actually able to hear and what they pay attention to, and they start to feel like that's their inner dialogue, and it ends up replacing our conscience, right, with just like basically like what the voice of God satellite kind of stuff, like where you just have these nanites that are just present in everything within us, right?
Yeah. Well,
this is actually part of the plan. I mean, this is not just speculation, right? And then and then so you got fluoride in the air. Then you make the food so there's just not enough nutrients in the food, right? But before you do this, you make sure that you alter all of the records to show something different, right? I mean, this is why we have the climate, global warming myths, right? Because the naval scientist who discovered it, like he spent like 3 years researching CO2, and there basically was no findings. So he modified temperatures from history to be lower, and he modified the current temperatures to be higher. So that he said, look, there's a trend of it's all the CO2's fault, right? And I'm sure he was just given that assignment by the order to basically make it look like, how do we justify killing all people, right? So then you modify history books, right? So the history books portray something totally different than what actually happened. Until now you've got a culture where we're more suggestible, we're more, we don't go and do as much independent research, right? And the first thing we hear in life, we never question, right? We're kids usually, right? So by the time we get to be older, and someone says something from a source that we've been trained to trust, we don't even question it.
Right.
But then if the front lines comes out and says, here's some CIA documents and some scientific research that shows that the CIA has been using weather control devices for years to control the weather. Now, if they can control the weather, how could there possibly be global warming unless they're modifying the weather? Because they can modify the weather, right?
Right.
So that's hard for people to accept, right? That's hard.
Right.
So
it's hard to believe that there is a worldwide elite evil group that literally worships Lucifer and has taken over all of the power centers around the world from the shadows, and that they're doing ceremonies that involve cannibalism and pedophilia and all sorts of horrible type of things that we cannot even start to imagine, right? And we just can't accept that it's real, right? Because we've been trained that it's like this. It's this imaginary bubble that's presented. It's what's on the TV. It's what's in the movie theaters. It's what's coming across, the internet now, because they're tweaking it, right? They're censoring it. So they don't. Any free thought for them is a danger, right? Because you might think for yourself.
Well, I mean, and to me, it puts it really in perspective when you start to look at everything as this has always been, our lifetime anyways, always been a war system, right? It's not a social system or a political system or anything else, or a religious system even. Society has been formed around war. Everything else has been created to sustain war, right? So religion's created. I mean, religious, not to say God doesn't exist or that the practice or even aspects that are described in the various sacred texts aren't real, but they're not what they're portrayed to be. They're structured that way, so we have a belief system that puts us at war. Like the Christians at war with the Jews, Islam at war with the Christians and the Jews. At one point you had the Hindus and the Muslims, and they were at war, and it's constant structure, right? I mean, and I'm sure if the Scientologists were allowed to be big enough, they'd be at war with the conservatives or whatever, like just be a perpetual war machine. So if you look at it as war, now anybody who's ever seen any movie or has anybody they know who's ever been through basic training, basic training is designed to break your will, so you stop anything that really expresses any kind of independence, and you learn to follow orders. And when you follow orders, it will save your life. And if you don't follow orders, it will get you killed, right? And it's a very simple principle, but it really does take away any kind of, innovative thought on the battlefield, right? You'll go anywhere. Right. And then, and if you believe in the cause that you're fighting for, they also use honor, right? Because people that sign up for the service, they do it because they want to do something honorable. I mean, usually, there's usually some, what I would say is a good motivation. So when you take these principles and now apply that same idea to the whole population. So now our basic training is the exact method we've all been taught. This is what you do. You go to you go to school, right? And you're going to go to school for whatever 13 years, right? Kindergarten through 12th grade. When you get done with school, you're going to have an idea about what you want to do. So you're going to go to college for another 4 years at least. If you want to go into a specialty area, then you're going to go into some specialty training, to be a lawyer or a doctor or a dentist or whatever, and you're going to go do that. Then when you do that, you'll get a career, you'll get a good job. If you do really well, everything, you'll excel through the ranks, or create a thriving practice, and then at about 65, you'll retire, and then your health will start to fade. Oh, I'm sorry. In the midst of that, you get married, you have 2 kids, you buy a house. Everything's designed so now I have a mortgage, but I don't own a house, right? So for 30 years, I'm paying off a mortgage so I can retire at the lowest point of my health. And not because that's what I should be unhealthy, but because that's what they've put in place. So that by the time I get to be 65, and really 65 is young, if I can live to be 1,000, 65 is, young, right? So now at 65, I'm breaking down, my body's falling apart, and I'm retired, great. I'm retired mainly because I can't do anything anymore. I can't even think straight because there's so much fluoride in the water, right?
Yeah.
That I'm suffering from Alzheimer's, So, and then in this, and then we do the same thing with our kids. We take our kids, now they say, we're going to put them in preschool. So you need to make sure, de Blasio is forcing this. He wants to make preschool mandatory, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you out of your mind? It's like, who can tell you have to put your child in anything? Nobody, right? But that's the stride. I almost think you're insane. If you
they're going to end up just taking the child from birth into the hospital, and then we'll release them after 3 weeks and 3 months and then 3 years, and
right.
And you get the visitation rights while we're putting them in education.
Right, and it's all like the most insane Nazi scientist version of reality that you can imagine, right? When they're just experimenting on a level with absolutely no care or concern for what, or the people have souls and they're real. Because all you care about is how do I control them and get them to do what I want, so I can have a slave that will work my factories for me, mind the mines, and build databases and do whatever I say, basically, right?
Right. Well,
that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, just as they were trained not to care for anything, not to love, and part of their society, the elite society, is not to care, not to love. That's why they move their children out of their homes and put them in with other family members to be raised by others. So they don't have that attachment to their children anymore, right? Because they're living apart. So now they want to put that into the rest of the world, right? By detaching the parents from the children. Earlier they can get it away from start at age 5, then age 4, then it'll be age 3, and then it gets down to birth, right? And then you don't even get to reproduce anymore. We're going to do that in the cloning centers, and we're going to
straight sex is rape. Right. Straight sex is rape. That's why. Jeez. Oh man, I want to do a whole parody on dumb things said by the deep state. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like how it gets to a certain absurdity, right? That I think is on hyper acceleration at this point. Because the light of day is being coming through because of Trump, right? That light behind him is now, he's directing it wherever it's showing. They're scrambling and they don't know how to come about. So that's why you're looking at these events in California, and it's through 18 states there were sightings. So remember, it's not just California, but pick out 18 states on the West Coast as being like the where they're going to draw have the dividing line, right?
Yeah, and you're talking about states out there that, like, it's the wrong state to be riding your train of United Nations. You can drive a train through New York City with all types of UN vehicles. New York City wouldn't even wouldn't even notice. Wouldn't even notice, right? Even though that's something is normal here, just people they just wouldn't get it what was happening. But you do that in a place like New Mexico, Arizona, Idaho, man, you got like hardcore kind of militia type mentality out there, right? Like they're not playing around with that stuff. They're like, what are you guys talking about? They can't just come in here with that kind of garbage. But nonetheless, what are you going to do? When a train is moving, laden down with massive military vehicles. I mean, that's a terrifying sight. And for anybody who doesn't realize the significance of this, it's illegal for United Nations attack vehicles of any kind to be on U.S. soil. That's against the law. So they don't have that right, to be here, period. But then the next question that comes up to me is if you have, 2 miles of UN attack vehicles and various, troop carriers and things that clearly they need people to, operate them, where are these UN soldiers? Where is this massive, army of UN soldiers?
Right. Well, that's why I was talking about staging areas. So this is the middle of California, just south of Silicon Valley. But there's an area, right, that they're talking about as being a staging area, and this just happens to be just south of where all of the power outages are. Well, where they turn the power off at. This power outage sounds like it's something that it was something that happened, meaning that it was like. The transformers blew up. The wind blew over the tower. The avalanche carried away the hillside, and it knocked down some lines and it cut the power to the city. No, they turned it off. And then when people in the elite area, the rich area, complained, they turned it on for them.
For them.
So,
in other words, we have absolute control of the grid and of you, is what it comes down to.
Right. So. They're making sure that they have their control over the area to move troops around, because if they have the power off, who can report on what's going on there? That means that you might.
Right. I mean, you said they shut down the ham radios, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about like real low-level communication that certainly isn't contributing in any way. Not low-level communication, but it's simpler, right? And it's certainly not contributing in any way to what they're saying. They're saying that the high winds are contributing to the forest fires, right?
Yeah, but what is the?
That's why they do it.
Yeah, but why does wind ever mean they turn off the power? It doesn't happen. They never turn off the power. The first thing, if the power goes off, what do? They rush to turn it back on. They fix the lines, they do whatever, and it's amazing how fast they are. They don't turn off the power. Especially to a whole major city with 2 million people on it. What is going on? You have to be realistic. There is something going on. That means you can't report on what's going on there. If they turn off there's no shortwave radio, so you can't get it out of the area. If you see blue helmets, troops moving around throughout that city, which is what they would be doing, how can you report it? So what is going to happen, right? You're going to now have the Marines coming in, and there's going to be armed conflict. And who is fighting who?
Well, I think it'd be good for people to go and watch a Rapture movie from like 1977, and they'll know exactly what's going on because they told us right back then, and it shows exactly what it is. I mean, so the United Nations coming in has always been the agenda of the world order, right? I mean, the letter from Cassandra. If anyone hasn't gone to the Ruiner blog. It's the Ruiner 777, I think, something like that. And there's a letter in there from one of the parents, and she basically says, I mean, outright, like, we do this because for the past 100 years we've fed you your entertainment, completely lying to you about everything, and it's actually here. I have it pulled up. I was reading it earlier. But the way she talks about it, it's so disturbing to me, anyways. I'm like, I can't believe this is a real thing sometimes, Just the way it's. I mean, I don't have it pulled up. Well, anyways, she basically goes in and she says, like, that this is, we do this because you let us. You don't give us. Whenever there's someone telling the truth, you beat them down and you bury what they're saying because you obviously don't want the truth.
Are we
right?
shadow
you
banned?
Want the lie?
Are we shadow banned?
Exactly. All right. So she talks about that, and she says, like, so basically what they said, what she says is, we're going to make you cybernetic beings of some sort, right? And for a time, right? And you're just going to do whatever we say. That's basically what's going to happen. And we'll feed off your energy. And and she blames us, saying, we're not going to let you ruin such a precious asset as yourselves. So in other words, she recognized, and the way she starts it is so like the most just debilitating sentence I've ever read. She goes, "It's not that we hate you; it's that we're indifferent." I'm like, that's worse, It's like if you hated me, it would make sense, but if you don't even care.
You don't even care enough to hate us, right?
Yeah, it's just.
Well, it's back to that not caring, right? That's what they don't have, right? And whatever that they're missing from that, or whatever that from that side, where we go back to how are they different? What are the genetics that make them different? Why are they are they like 12 foot tall or something like that? The parents, I think they were taller. I picked up on.
Actually, I don't know about that. Yeah,
I picked up on that somewhere. I said, oh, they're not 6 foot. They're double our height, kind of thing. And
I know that the original humans were definitely taller and stronger, obviously, because they were more complete. Like we were supposed to be that as well.
Right. Well, they've been pushing us down, right? They've been restricted our age. Right, and now then they poison us to get us even further down. Right, 120 years is too long. These guys are, we can't hold them back. Let's break them. Let's start breaking down their bodies so they die around 60. Yeah, let's cut their age in half. So if we had 1,000 years, just think what we'd be able to do. We're still all infants, comparatively, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Just think how wise you are when you're 50. How wise you are when you're 40 and 30.
Right.
You get as you get older, your perspective changes about things, right? I literally don't think people should be able to vote until they're 24 years old. Literally, I don't think that putting they lowered the age range to manipulate the people, right? It wasn't for the betterment of government to lower the age, but they use like things saying like, well, if you're gonna be old enough to die for your country, you should be able to vote. Well, you know what? I agree. If you're in the military and 18 years old, you should be able to vote. But if you're not, you don't have the world experience to understand life and death that the people that were in the military, that were in a war-torn situation, now understand. There's things that will aid you and give you wisdom faster. But as as just part of biology, our brains don't stop developing, its structure until the age of 24, I think, something like that. So
Right.
I think that's typically in the past the age of being adult was 20. I think it was 24, and then they lowered it to 21, and then they lowered it to 18, and then they're going to lower it to age of 13 for consent, and then they're going to lower it to age 10. And then when you're a newborn, hey, you can vote. What do you want to do? Just say, "Wah," if you want to be molested.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah.
This stuff is just crazy.
I know.
When you look at that. So, but and on the solution tip, and you can see that this is the opportunity that we have, and right now I'm very, very clear, very confident. Actually so much so that I reached out to Able Danger today, Phil McConnell, because I guess somebody told him that I was compromised, and I recognize the Chinese elder rhetoric whenever he talks. He's spitting out that stuff. So he's got great connections and CIA connections and agencies and stuff like that. And what that does for you is basically when you're allowed to grow to have like 1 million followers or something, it's because you're being handled, right? Like, so your information goes out and you're portrayed as like, a champion of justice, which I do believe that Phil McConnell is trying to do a lot of good things. I think he's out there like fighting to stop the stuff going on with Child Protective Services, other things of that nature. And I'm sure, he's been told that he's going to get a ton of money. But the problem is that he thinks like at the top is like the Chinese elders type people, and that they're the most wise and they're benevolent, and that's just not true, right? So what ends up happening is he's pumping the RV, and he's very credible because he's got great sources, right? So I invited him on to talk. I'm like, look, come on, and we'll talk about it. And, like, we'll see where our notes match up and where they don't, and I'll prove it, and you won't be able to prove what you're saying, basically, because nobody knows who the Chinese elders are. All we know them as Chinese elders, right? Like, we had like Madame Wu with somebody, and this other guy who like allegedly exchanged the gold certificates, whose passport I have, and he's neither Chinese nor elder. he's like a white guy with a handlebar mustache, right? And
a handlebar, mean like the dastardly villains in the cartoons.
Yeah,
they are a little
just like that, right? And but I forget his name. It's like something. It's like Juan, not Juan. It's like a Chinese sounding name, but it's not.
Juan spelled Juan.
Well, it's like there's what's the guy's name? Cartel or Michael Cottrell. There's Michael Cottrell, and then the counterpart to Michael Cottrell is this other guy. I just can't remember his name right now, but I'm sure my team is texting me right now. But I talked to Michael Cottrell too. I mean, and that dude was the darkest dude I ever talked to in my life, man. He was just so angry that I would have the nerve to go up against the system and sue Wells Fargo, right? And he was so mad about it, so mad. But anyway, so Phil McConnell, he's still talking about how the RV is going to happen. And he's explaining people the intricate details of how it's going to work, which you could find probably 100 different conference calls and be doing the exact same thing. And the information really hasn't changed, right? The difference is, like, I started challenging it because it didn't make sense. Why is it that you have this group who says they're so benevolent, but their goal is to shame the American people and to make us all feel terrible for the crimes that we had nothing to do with?
Right.
I think all that is social engineering, cultural guidance stuff, mind control. Just constantly putting in our head what we are not, right? Like, and it sounds so good. They've been going after I appreciate this. They're talking about how they went after the female, the empowered female, right? So they were looking. So Hillary Clinton was looking for groups that they could use to promote her agenda, right? So they got Ellen DeGeneres, The View, and Oprah, right? And they used them to empower women, and in so doing, they've erased what it means to be a woman, right? anything that's feminine now is weak, and anything that's masculine is toxic, and this is the culture they created.
And the women are to be masculine, which means they're now toxic.
Right, but they don't say that, right?
Right.
They don't say that. They kind of portray it a different way.
Yeah.
So all this kind of crazy is just rampant in everything out there. It's just amazing to me. So
Well, it definitely is on the on the Twilight Zone channel, right? You know, it's so. I've been you know, looking at for the truth for things like with from the very early age, you know, always. But the picture that's been painted as to how deep the actual cabal is. I mean, how when you scratch the surface, you're really just at the, you know, at the top of a glacier. You're just kind of like peering down, and there's just so much that's been built below us. It's all up towards our detriment. You know, it's not meant for us. It's meant for them, right? It's just a system of control, and we want now really the idea of freedom that was put into place. You know, whether or not, you know, they were Masons or whatever, that, you know, the founding fathers and whatever, but that core idea of independence and freedom, that seed is so strong that it's cracking that glacier. You know, and even though they keep, you know, trying to you know, cover it up and make it into something that, you know, we're you know, that they want to downplay us, even to our sexuality. You know, if you're, you know, male, make it toxic masculinity. You know, feminizing men. You know, or, you know, on the other side, masculating women, right? To create them into something that's different, reversing everything. It's because they can't control this idea of freedom. Right? The reason why America was doing so well is because we were free to explore and do things. So that's why the ones that became, let's say, the Rothschild, I'm sorry, not the Rothschilds exactly, more like the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Mellons, these you know, early entrepreneurs that basically won the West, that built empires, that had more money than the government, right? It was because they were free. That's why they were able to do these things. Now they got co-opted by the banking system of the Rothschilds and the money system, right? And they fed right into it, and they became part of the elite, right? But that idea of freedom, you know, is still there. You know, this is still what is at the heart of Americans, right? We feel it, even if we don't quite even understand it anymore, right? Because of what they've been putting on top of it. But they want to stamp it out. That's why they want to put our children in preschool or kindergarten at such an early age. It's because they want to wipe out what it is to understand freedom. You know, and they're not going to do it. You know, we're not going to allow them to be successful. In fact, you know, that's why we have Trump. That's why we have the things that are happening. And it's great that, you know, Kim has broken through, right? And they're now cooperating. She goes, but she had to like, you know, hog tie them, right? and not and not allow them to you know, here's all the money, here, try and steal it. And they weren't able to, and then it's like, when they come to the realization, well, okay, we've got no choice but if we want the money to work with you. You know.
I think that's the hard part that they didn't realize. The remnants you have here now, it never occurred to them that they were going to be wiped out too, you know.
Right.
And that's the big thing that so now they're trying to recover the economy, just, you know, not realizing, like, they're just catching on, right? But the whole system would have collapsed now if Kim didn't hold it up.
Yeah. You know what?
It would be completely be a zombie apocalypse.
There's something that just occurred to me while we're talking here about the Chinese, right? Remember, they're built all these vacant cities, right? They had planned. Who was going to live in them? Well, maybe it might be the elite that were abandoning the Americas, leaving behind the slaves, right, for the next workforce, and they would all be, in China, right? Because Hillary has an office there, But
Does she really in one of the ghost cities?
no, I don't know in the ghost cities, but in China, I believe it's in Shanghai. I might be wrong about where it's at, but they have these ghost cities, but who is going to be living in them? Well, if you're going to have all of the elite, the brains of the country, now living in a country where there's blue helmets all over the place and everybody's fighting, they're going to want to leave. Oh, come to China.
Right.
So, and then of course, like lemmings, they would just follow and realize that they're now really in jail after a while. And oh, by the way, you can only have one kid. The Chinese now can have two, but no, you're just visiting our country. You can only have one. No.
Right. Well, you got to outnumber.
They're even more outnumbered at that point. Right? They're decreasing in population size. So there'd be like a removed tumor.
So, and if anybody wants to know what's going on here in the U.S., you can look at Haiti and see that Haiti is a microcosm, right?
Right.
So when the Clinton cartel comes in 2010, they start making deals to take over, right? They start making offers to one senator who we showed in that video, who was on Fox News, and you saw the terror in that woman's eyes as he was outing Hillary Clinton, and she probably thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get Arkansided, right? Mm-hmm. And he was saying outright, like, since the Clintons came in, nothing has been done. So $16 billion is gathered to rebuild Haiti, and we are actively working on getting camera crews down there and finding ways to protect them and get a whole bunch of other things down there as well to show the absolute just carnage it is in Haiti, right? There is no building that is taking place, no construction. People are starving. Hillary Clinton, forced the minimum wage to stay at 13 cents. Like they have way too much. It's like an experiment by the Clintons, right? Yeah. Kids are getting trafficked and raped. Young men who don't have jobs that are like hanging out in gangs are getting paid to go start wars, basically, to look violent. But I gotta be honest. There is one thing that is the most tragic that I heard today. I did have a conference call with the group there in Haiti, Valerie Durkinson, for anybody who doesn't know what she's doing, please go to her Facebook and promote the heck out of what she's doing, because she has done more work than the entire Department of Justice, to expose things down in Haiti, right? Now, we did some interviews with her, and, we've been working, and she's doing some amazing work. And this this scumbag, half wannabe priest, boys home guy, right, who's been awarded all types of children awards, and he's a saint. He worked with Mother Teresa's her parish, and probably because they were swapping kids and stuff like that. So he basically has a boys home where now she has two of the boys who live at that home, and then she formed really tight relationships with the kids who were there, and they were just systematically abused across the board. I mean, just in horrible ways, and it's all mind control tactics. So he's definitely like a Jesuit, MI6 programmer type guy, programming triggers and experimenting. So nobody can touch him. There's arrest warrants, there's all types of stuff, no one can get him, right? So we started making some noise about this, and, trying to get some information out there. And then the gentleman we interviewed, Jean, he had access. He's actually in Haiti, So he had access. He said he can go get them. He just needed a little bit of money to go down there and get them. And so he sent it to me today, and it really, just cut to the heart. So he told me what happened. He's like, "Look, I have it to go down there, but I don't have the I have the people. I don't have the money." He goes, "But I could get them." He goes, "But then," and he said it this way, and it was I took it, but he goes, "And because you didn't perform, right? So now we don't have the money." This same parish, right, went and this children's home took 50 children and slaughtered them and buried them in a mass grave because of the noise that was being made around them. When people go to talk, that really happened in the past 2 months. That happened in the past 2 months, as we were actively trying to change it. So believe me when I say this, I'm very, very grateful that Kim is bringing money in.
Well, with the money in hand, then these things can change right away.
Yeah, but I will say, just for my conscience sake, please, anybody out there, go to the Speak Project on YouTube and get the PayPal for the Haitian group down there, and just whatever you got, please send them something, anything we can do to help, because you got to think, when people are making 13 cents an hour, $100 is a big deal, right? And the average annual income for a person there, I believe Joe told me, was about $200. But anyway, so I've just been recovering from that all day, to be honest, because just thinking about it, 50 kids in 50 kids in one shot in the past 2 months that we were directly involved with, that had we had, Steve Mnuchin allowed our project funding to come in, or, all the pomp and circumstances, useless idiots who are parading up and down, acting like they're heroes, like Cory Booker and Maxine Waters, who wrote letters of endorsement for this convicted pedophile who actually went down and had these 50 children slaughtered and buried in the mass grave. Maxine Waters. So that kind of stuff goes on. Now, if they would have just backed off and looked at the facts and realized that dumbasses were going to get killed too, and they were part of the genocide, and they're not empowered, they're not special, you just done the right thing by humanity. Just, ask yourself, like, if you knew you're supporting the genocide of children, right, for any reason, is there ever a reason? There's never a good reason. So just to know that's going on to me is just, and look, and by the way, and that's going on here, and just in different ways too, by the way. That's the thing that really caught me up. I'm like, oh, my gosh, kidding. So we were just talking about what would you need, right? Now, here in the U.S., see, what you have to look at is what have they taken away from us to know what you need to do first, right? So where they're at in Haiti right now is, the people don't have guns. They have no way to protect themselves. But, the ones that are, the UN has guns, who literally, the Haitians, and I was really trying to get a great video, because I've seen so many of their videos where they're just marching down the street peacefully singing songs, right? It's touching, right? They just want their nation back, right? And then to make them look, to incite violence, UN snipers were on top of buildings just tagging them, random people, right, to scare them and break up any kind of protest.
Right.
So the first thing they need, I would say, is the ability to defend themselves, right? And then from there, then the same things that we would have to restore. Now, by the way, if you want to know where we're at, look what they're trying to do now. They're trying to take our guns.
Right.
Right? They're trying to make it okay. They're trying to present somehow, like, how hard they had to work at this to come up with a way to make cannibalizing each other and eating the babies to be an acceptable part of climate change.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Moloch. Is that why you're doing it, to bring it back to the devil? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
Yeah, exactly. It all comes back to every perversion that they can do to put on top of us is to break us as to being human, to being humane, to treating with each other with care and love and wanting the best for one another. This is what they've been trying to stop, and they are failing miserably. And that's why their actions are lashing out. As I said yesterday, they're circling the drain, right? And they're just throwing stuff out, trying to grab at anything as they're going down the drain, executing their plan as they know it. They didn't get the guns removed. Trump was in office. Just think, all the stuff that's been going on the last 3 years, everything that they've been throwing out there at us, but it's been exposed all along the way. QAnon was there, and I hear Q is coming back, and they're going to have an updated site in which this is going to be coming out. I don't know, but they did. There's some rumors to that right now that it should be coming back soon.
Yeah. Also, Trump is supposed to be launching an app, right, for his party.
Yeah. I heard that too. So bypassing.
It would be a brilliant thing, wouldn't it, if President Trump had an app, and those apps generally, now there's a way to do campaign contributions. It'd be really smart to find a way to manipulate that and be able to actually fund people, right?
Yeah.
You would trust that.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Well, I know how to do that.
I know. So, just saying, good idea. So, but anyways, I said all that to say, as far as I know, Kim, we're on the cut of bringing in money for, and I have brought in money many times with Kim into our accounts, and seen it and known it was there and confirmed with the banks, only to have it get snatched up. So, right now, Kim definitely she is having a good time, and she's very confident. And there is nothing more dangerous than a intelligent, beautiful woman who knows exactly what she's doing and in control. And I would say that's Kim right now. Very, very powerful.
For the money to flow, I keep saying, what is happening in the world, right? We have to get to that place where the money can flow. So if we're at the point of insurrection in California, where they're making a move to secede from the union, to take over the state, and Trump has to squash a rebellion, the money can flow. There's no reason at that point, that there's not, it's a realignment of the whole world system at that, and that is like a last gasp of that group. Their plan was to do this. They're just executing their plan. It's just now so obvious, and it's also there's counters being done to their plan as they're implementing it that obviously people don't see. My daughter and son live in California. I talked to my daughter, just before we were starting the broadcast. And she doesn't. She hears me, and she knows she has to. She knows to listen, because I have a tendency to be right about things, even if it takes time for it to come about. And so, but she said, what can I do? All right, and I said, well, they're turning off the power. Go get a generator. You get extra food on hand. Have gas in your cars. Just some basics, so that if they do things like this, then they know. Then you know that you're going to be okay for a little while, and hopefully it's only a little while. But we're at that stage where if Trump's called up the Marines, where are they going to go? There's a big Marine base in San Diego area called Camp Pendleton. A lot of Marines will be there. And if they need to go out throughout the state, who are they going to be going up against? Blue helmets? how long is that going to last? I'm sorry, but they just don't have the support that they think they do. They're in their own minds. They've prepared and they've planned and they have control over this, right? Because they've controlled the media, they've controlled the message, but they don't have that anymore. And their control has been mostly their own illusion, right? People just go along, but as soon as it gets uncomfortable for people, people will literally snap out of it. Say, what's going on here? So, like the people right now, that 2 million people in a major city have no power, right? And what's the reason? They just turned it off because of wind. People are going to get upset, right? And that's going to have people, going to the capital of California, looking for Governor Newsom.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, all this stuff.
Yeah. So we're set for the money. Okay, let's roll. Let's get the money flowing.
Let's roll. Yeah. It's exciting. And
no volume. You're muted.
Hello?
There, you're back.
Sorry. So I will just say that it's late, but I just got a text from Kim, and it is good news. It is not exactly what the final transfer in our account, but I would say it's very, 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 very close. Like, it can go down at any time, and she's got it. She's 99.9% sure she's got it. So that's pretty exciting.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yeah.
So
50 kids, man. 50 kids. That's what I think about. That is my.
You
that
want
is something I will not be able to get in my head.
You
Every day that goes by.
You
every
want?
day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Running tally.
Yeah.
So we're ready. Let's move. All right. You wanna call it for today?
Yeah, man. Thank you as always. Thanks for bringing all that stuff in about the UN and everything else. So, and man, just tell your daughter to leave California, by the way. My goodness. Just run is what I want to say. Run out of California everywhere. Don't worry about getting water. Just go to Idaho or something else.
Yeah. Well, Idaho's a good spot.
Strong militia.
Yeah. Yeah. Idaho. Yeah. I remember I was telling you David Wilcox is one main guy who has passed away. Pete Peterson. He was in the Brain Trust of Skunk Works, right? And inventor of many Tesla level type of inventions. And I saw him the day he was leaving California, and he came to my office, and he said, "We're evacuating California." And I said, this was like 1990, maybe 99 or 2000, something like that, right? And he said, "We're evacuating California." And he was literally leaving. He was just on the road and leaving, and he wouldn't tell me what. At that day, he showed me a holographic processor. Amazing,
Yeah, incredible.
Amazing. And but to think of the planning, I never understood why he said evacuating California. And now, this is when it starts to make sense, because they knew what was going to happen. They knew that California was going to be given up to the Chinese back then. So,
Yeah.
this is the time when the Clintons are in office back then, right? And that's with the craziness that fell out of that, of the giving over all the technology to the Chinese, the missile guidance systems, right? So they can strike the United States with intercontinental ballistic missiles because of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Clintons are, they work for them, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Anyway, but now where it's all turned around, and things are changing. So the money is now moving in a good way. So hallelujah,
Hallelujah! All right, everybody.
Yes, everybody.
On that note, hallelujah. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right.
And if we don't talk to you tomorrow, expect really amazing things to happen, because that apparently is our MO. So
that's it. Yeah. Hopefully, I don't see you tomorrow.
Hopefully, I don't see you either, Dan. Have a great night.
All right. Bye, everybody.